What if the very success you chased to make your father proud was the reason he stopped looking you in the eye? This is the story of Joshua Langford, a son driven by vision, a father bound by tradition, and the bridge they built between legacy and innovation, heartbreak and healing. In a world divided by dirt and data, can love and respect find their way home? Joshua Langford was 23 when he first tasted the sting of success. Not the kind you celebrate with champagne, but the kind that turns heads, breeds envy, and drives a wedge between love and pride. He was born and raised in Charleston, South Carolina, the only child of Nathan Langford, a third-generation landscaper with calloused hands, a permanent farmer's tan, and a disdain for all things digital. To Nathan, respect was earned with sweat, weathered boots, and dirt under the fingernails. Anything else? Just talk. Hype. But Joshua wasn't wired like his father. He was quiet, observant, and sharp in a way that didn't fit with mowers and mulch. While Nathan trimmed hedges and laid sod, Joshua was coding in his bedroom, eyes glued to dual monitors as he flipped between finance charts and lines of Python code. His fascination wasn't in dirt, it was in data. At 15, he was building trading bots in secret using trial versions of financial software and online forums. At 17, he got accepted into the University of South Carolina to study business analytics. The day he left, his father barely said a word, just handed him a toolbox and said, "In case the computer breaks." But college didn't last long. Joshua dropped out after his sophomore year. "Stupid," his father spat when Joshua told him. "You'll end up mowing lawns with me anyway." Joshua didn't respond. He packed up his laptop and moved out, leaving behind a house where pride had turned into silence. He moved in with Thomas Blake, his best friend and fellow dropout, into a rundown apartment above a laundromat in Columbia. The ceiling leaked, the heater barely worked, but they had fiber internet and a dream: to build something revolutionary in financial forecasting, a real-time market prediction AI that could adapt based on behavioral economics and breaking data. They called it Horizon. Their days blended into nights. Coffee cups piled up, whiteboards filled with formulas. They coded, tested, failed, and repeated. Some days they didn't eat until midnight. They pitched Horizon to over a dozen investors only to be laughed out. One venture capitalist told them, "You're just kids with math. I want men with money." Then came Blackwater Capital. They didn't laugh. They listened. After 2 grueling presentations, they offered $14 million for exclusive licensing rights. It wasn't a buyout. It was a bet. It wasn't enough to retire, but it was enough to make a statement. Joshua didn't call his father. Instead, he returned home on Memorial Day weekend. The backyard was filled with family. Kids running around. Uncles drinking beer, the grill smoking with burgers and ribs. Nathan stood near the grill, same apron, same old boots. Joshua pulled into the driveway in a cherry-red Ferrari 296 GTB. Gasps. Whispers. Phones came out. Nathan narrowed his eyes. "Whose car is that?" he barked. Joshua smiled. "Mine. You sell drugs now?" "No, Dad. I sold software." Nathan scoffed, flipping a burger. "Fast money fades fast." That night, Joshua sat on the back porch, alone. Fireflies flickered. The air was thick with southern humidity. Denise, his mother, came out quietly, handed him a glass of sweet tea. She sat beside him, her eyes soft. "I always knew you'd do something different," she said. Joshua stared at the ground. "I wanted him to be proud." She touched his shoulder. "He is. He just doesn't know how to say it." But those words weren't enough. Joshua didn't just want approval. He wanted understanding. He wanted to bridge the chasm between roots and ambition. But that would take more than a fancy car. It would take time. Over the next few weeks, Joshua's name was on every local news site. Charleston Tech Prodigy Nets, $14 million deal. Friends he hadn't heard from in years began messaging him. But the Langford landscaping business? It kept suffering. His uncle Leon called him one evening. "Your dad won't say anything, but he's drowning. Took out a second mortgage. Clients are switching to corporate services. His back's giving out, but he won't stop." Joshua went silent. He drove back the next morning, not in the Ferrari, but in a borrowed SUV. No showmanship, just a concern. Nathan was in the garage, fixing a trimmer. "I want to help," Joshua said. Nathan didn't look up. "I don't need your pity money." "It's not pity, it's strategy." He handed Nathan a folder. Documents from Greenscape Enterprises, a national landscaping company trying to expand in the South. Joshua had worked out a deal, a joint venture that would keep Langford Landscaping's name, retain its employees, modernize operations, and bring in new clients. Nathan would become regional director, retaining his title and control. "You won't lose your legacy," Joshua said. "You'll evolve it." Nathan stared at the papers, then back at Joshua. "You trying to fix my life so you can feel like a hero?" Joshua's voice cracked. "No, I'm trying to give back what you gave me. You worked 30 years in the sun so I could have a future. Let me help protect yours." Nathan walked away. But the next morning, he signed. Joshua relocated Horizon Analytics to Charleston soon after. No longer running from home, he was returning to build. He offered his father a position on Horizon's board. Nathan refused. But 2 weeks later, he knocked on Joshua's glass office door. "What does a director of traditional industries do?" Joshua grinned. "Helps old dogs teach new tricks." Nathan cracked a rare smile. "Maybe I've still got a few." Together, they started workshops teaching small business owners how to integrate smart systems without losing their roots. Nathan stood before crowds of masons, roofers, and plumbers explaining how AI could work for them. The irony? The man who mocked tech was now its bridge. 6 months later, Horizon Analytics was no longer just a tech startup. It had become a movement. A synergy of modern AI and traditional industries. Farmers were learning how to predict yield fluctuations using Horizon's tools. Plumbers were booking jobs through AI-optimized platforms. Blackwater Capital increased funding by another $20 million. Joshua wasn't just creating software anymore, he was reshaping Charleston's economy. Nathan thrived. He wore his usual boots, but now paired them with button-downs and blazers. He still smelled like fresh grass, but talked about metrics and KPIs. The man who once mocked computers now explained them to rural business owners. Denise finally took her dream trip to Greece. Joshua booked her first-class seat. She sent postcards with little drawings of ruins and olives. "Wish you were here," one said. "But I'm glad you're there." Thomas, once the quiet coder, had transformed into a charismatic marketing head. He told stories. He brought in new clients. And Joshua's cousin Evan, a former mechanic, became COO, efficient, reliable, and endlessly practical. At the Charleston Future Summit, Joshua gave a keynote titled, "The Future is Built on Our Fathers." Hands. His words echoed across social media. "My generation builds apps. My father's generation built America. It's time we built together." The video hit 2 million views in a week. After the applause, Nathan approached the stage. This time he wasn't backstage. He came up in front of the crowd. "I was wrong," he said. Joshua's eyes widened. Nathan continued. "I thought success meant dirt on your hands and pain in your back. But it can mean vision too, and brains, and heart. My son didn't sell out. He brought us forward." They hugged as cameras flashed. The crowd rose to their feet. Later that evening, they stood on the office balcony together. "You know," Nathan said, sipping sweet tea, "when I first held you in that hospital, I wondered if you'd ever be strong enough for this world." Joshua turned. "And?" "I was asking the wrong question," Nathan said. "You weren't meant to carry the world. You were meant to change it." As Charleston's skyline lit up, Joshua smiled. He had finally built the bridge between where he came from and where he was going, side by side, brick by brick.